Hello, I'm Daniel, this is Chris, and you're watching The Superhero Show. Now, if you watch the show week to week, I'm sure you really enjoyed our discussion of whether the X-Men should cross over with the Fantastic Four, which obviously wasn't pre-recorded, and we intentionally ignored the Spider-Man news, obviously.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess, wasn't it, really? We were away on a conference in San Francisco when this news broke, and indeed we were in a hotel room with a bunch of our colleagues having a drink.
Yeah, I was a bit drunk. I was a bit drunk at the time.
It was like, what do we do? So, we weren't able to move as swiftly as we normally can. Yeah. Indeed, that evening was quite funny, having to do an impromptu conversation in the hotel room. In the hotel room,
making it look like a porn film.
Yeah, we decided not to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, because I had a bit too
Not
much
because
beer.
we were drunk, because we wanted to save it for you and for the superhero.
Yeah, so we let you down. More importantly, we let everyone down. But we're going to talk about it today. We're going to go over some old ground. We're going to cover some new ground, and just basically sort out everything because there's so much stuff going on.
Well, let's kick off with that initial reaction. February the 9th, 2015, the day it all changed. People remember where they were and what they were doing.
Judgment Day.
Yep. There was such an excitement in that. I mean, it was cool that it was all the IGN people together.
I almost didn't believe it. I thought it was a bit of a practical joke or something. Because it just such bad luck to happen when we weren't like online and this news. And I actually remember Eric Goldman coming in the room with a laptop and kind of declaring it to the room. It's like, seriously, has this happened?
Sony and Marvel are partnering to bring Spider-Man into the MCU.
And then it was interesting, the follow-on, like unstitching all the kind of clauses and how it's actually going to work and the consequences of it, which we're going to go through.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I didn't want to be in the conversation, because I didn't actually understand it. Like, I mean, maybe that's because I'd had 4 beers, but also, like, reading through the statement, it was quite hard to grasp exactly what this meant. I mean, should we be as excited as we are about it? Let's start. I want to ask you that question, Dan.
Absolutely, because I think Spider-Man had lost its way. I reviewed Amazing Spider-Man 2 for the site, and as much as I love the Spider-Man character, I have him in my little lower third. Spider-Man's one of my favourite characters of all time. Those films lost their way. There was something that was kind of joyless about them. They were just trying to get it up and running and using him as a cash cow rather than, really falling in love with the character. Yeah. And it just felt like they were going down this kind of route that was so far removed from what even Fox is doing with the X-Men movies, but certainly what Marvel's doing with the MCU. It didn't feel right. And I think Kevin Feige says something about Marvel's involvement will hopefully deliver the creative continuity and authenticity that fans demand from the MCU. And I think that's what the Sony films have started to lack. They didn't have that continuity, but also an authenticity.
Yeah.
And I was really worried about all the stuff they were trying to get into production, the Sinister Six, the spin-off movies. It just felt too much. Whereas this feels more elegant, and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I'm excited about Spider-Man being in your lower third. Yeah. What does that mean? No, I feel the same.
It's a sticky guy.
I'd lost interest. I didn't enjoy The Amazing Spider-Man that much. Enjoyed The Amazing Spider-Man 2 a little less. To the point that I didn't even see part 2 in the cinema. Which is like, well, that's not cool.
I think at times we're really straining for things to like in them. Like, I think what everyone says about them is, I really like Andrew Garfield. Yeah. It's like, you're not saying, I love that movie. It's like, he's really good.
Yeah. There's still a bunch of question marks here, a lot of which we can't answer at this point. But it's just, seeing what Marvel has done with pretty much all of their other characters in the last 10 years, this has got to be good.
Yeah, and the rumour's been in the air for a while, because obviously that the Sony hack and those emails were circulating. I remember in January there's a rumour that Spider-Man would be in Civil War and the Avengers Infinity War, and it does seem like those negotiations have been happening for a long, long time. Yeah. And we always used to get excited when we see photoshops of what if Spider-Man was in this? It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Super exciting.
It's going to happen initially with Captain America: Civil War. So that was the first bit of news. Yeah, we were going to get that followed by a Spider-Man standalone movie at Sony.
Yeah, and without getting too kind of inside baseball with the studio stuff, so Sony still retain the control of the character creatively, but they would be working in association with Marvel. Kevin Feige is going over to help produce the standalone Spider-Man movie that will come next. Yeah. So he's still under the kind of stewardship or the control of Sony, but Marvel are kind of lending their expertise and kind of shepherding the character.
It's like what I've said so many times in this show that I thought it was going to happen one day, that the superheroes were going to become like the stars of the old studio system, where the studios would own an actor, but they would lend them out or swap them. You know, your Bing Crosby's, your Fred Astaire's, your Judy Garland. They were almost like pawns that the studios played with, and it hasn't happened yet with these superhero films until now. And I just felt like it was the logical way for this to go, with the rights being shared. And it's interesting. So I guess Feige. I mean, how much creative control is Feige going to have over the Sony films?
I think this is where it gets a little bit knotted for me, because he's appearing first in a Marvel-owned property.
Yeah.
They're going to get to kind of define the character in his first outing, even though it's not a standalone movie. They're going to have major say on the look of the costume, the casting. Although the casting, they said, will be done in association with the director that they attached to the 2017 standalone movie.
Who we don't know who that is.
We don't know that is.
Don't even know.
So there's a lot of things to fall into place right now, but I just think they're going to have massive control. It's going to feel like a Marvel movie. The standalone movie will have to feel like a Marvel movie, because they're in continuity now.
Well, Sony have got to have done this deal because they want some of the Marvel magic, so therefore they shouldn't constrain them when it comes to...
it'd be weird to get them on board and then start getting really become a control freak, because that hasn't worked out for you last time. You're going to have to relinquish that control.
It's interesting though, like cross studios, the marketing teams, the advertising teams, PR teams. It's just behind the scenes stuff that we see. That's going to be very interesting how that works out.
But should we talk about last year for Amazing Spider-Man, we actually had the producers for the Amazing Spider-Man series and the future spin-offs, Avi Arad, long-time producer on the Marvel movies, going way back to the original first wave of Marvel movies, Blade, Spider-Man, all that sort of stuff, and Matt Tolmach. And I was interviewing them. We had them in the studio for about 20 minutes, and I said to them right at the end, I said, a bit of a provocative question. I was like, come on, what would it take to have Spider-Man in the Avengers? And this is what they had to say.
I think, again, I think I'm probably a little bit of the militant here. I think it will take a moment in which we'll run out of ideas. Yeah. There's so much to tell about Spider-Man. There's so much to tell about the Sinister Six. The relationship between Spider-Man and Venom will bring a whole other world in.
So does this mean that Sony's run out of ideas then? Is that what we're saying?
It was a bit of a thing to say, wasn't it, at the time? But I don't think they run out of ideas. You know, they not so long ago, what was it, less than a year ago, they put the dates in the calendar for everyone. They said that this is when 3 is going to happen. This is when Sinister Six is going to happen. They attached a director to Sinister Six, Drew Goddard, who we might talk about later. Yeah. They were making real plans. So I don't think they run out of ideas. I think more than anything is the fans of these movies weren't on board with those ideas.
Well, I'll tell you, I've got a quote here. Sony's Michael Linton says of the deal, "This is the right decision for the franchise, for the business, for Marvel and for the fans." Now, I think for our business is the interesting thing there. It's a business decision by Sony.
Yeah. Well, Spider-Man didn't bomb, but it's not doing the level of these other movies.
No.
And the potential for what...
No, and it was diminishing returns as well. The law of diminishing returns was happening, and it did feel like announcing these spin-offs and the female spin-off and the Venom film, that they were kind of flailing a little bit and weren't really sure what direction to go in. And they made those announcements, and it got, the press wasn't positive around them, so...
Also, I think the halo effect, if you think about it strategically, he's going to debut in a Marvel movie, probably going to be probably the biggest movie of the year, if not.
Yeah.
It's going to be right up there.
Yeah.
I know Batman Superman comes out as well, but it's going to be right up there. And that's what better trailer for your standalone movie than that. You can, some discussion online how Spider-Man might be used like the Hulk in that movie. He'll have a couple of awesome scenes, and you're just like, I want more of it. I want more.
Yeah, well, that's the question, isn't it? Is it stunt casting? Is it just going to be a glorified cameo? Or will he be the integral part to the Civil War movie as he is to the book?
Yeah, I think you can have an important part, but it'd be small without it devolving into a cameo. And I think that's something comics do really well, because you have access to the full suite of characters. It's very easy in comics to drop a character in for a couple of important scenes and then they go away. It doesn't matter because you follow them in their own comic. And we're getting to a point in movies where that can happen now. Yeah, he's in for a couple of scenes, but they're really good, important scenes. And then you've got his own movie.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool strategy.
Agreed. So it meant lots of... the timeline I was trying to put together since this was announced, it's been complicated, but everything else has moved back. Sinister Six has moved back indefinitely, unspecified date. So that's got to be a worry.
I think I'm a bit worried for all of these future Spider-Man movies, if I'm honest. Like, I don't know whether it's Sony saving face, they just don't know yet, things are up in the air, but a lot of that Sinister Six movie was predicated on the stuff that was in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which has been nixed.
Yep.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, my biggest problem with it was it felt like prep work for Sinister Six, putting all this stuff in motion. You take that away out of the mix, I don't know how Sinister Six starts, really.
Can I talk about the negatives for a minute then?
Yeah.
So this is bad for the Sinister Six movie.
Very bad, I think.
This is bad for Avi Arad, who's becoming an executive producer over this character that he's kind of marshalled all this time, and he's not going to have as much control anymore. I think it's sad for him. Mark Webb, no more Spider-Man movies in his future.
Yep.
Good or bad, I don't know how you feel about that. Andrew Garfield.
I think that's the one.
Yeah.
I feel really sad for Andrew Garfield. Like, I think he's great Spider-Man. Said it earlier in the show.
Yeah.
Didn't get the great Spider-Man movie.
Signed on to a bunch of films.
Yep.
I guess they have to pay him off, maybe.
Yeah.
I know. I heard that he was in talks with them, and they decided that he wasn't the right person. To move on. Black Panther. Is this a good thing for Black Panther?
We have a discussion up on the site with Joshua, our comics editor, discussing how they feel that because Marvel didn't have the access to the character of Spider-Man, they were using Black Panther as kind of proxy in that movie. Because of this, a lot of people thinking Spider-Man is going to kind of take over that role. The Black Panther movie, standalone movie, has been pushed back a long way, kind of from November to July of the following year. It's not a bad thing. He'll still get his moment. He just might not get the best kind of launch as he would, the best platform. I still imagine he might factor into the Civil War. He'll still be there, but he might not have that real pivotal role.
Yeah, because that's a fair bit of introducing they've got to do to characters in that film where there's already a lot of story to tell anyway.
You know, if there's people who know how to introduce a lot of characters in one film, I think Marvel have got that down.
Yeah.
So hopefully they take what they've learned on things like The Guardians into that movie.
Should we talk about who it's good news for, potentially?
Yeah.
Casting.
So,
who's going to be the new Spider-Man?
So one thing to point out, they've said they're going to go younger. They're going to take him back to school. He's going to be 16, 17. Obviously, that doesn't mean you're casting 16, 17-year-olds, but we're looking at early 20s.
And he's going to be Peter Parker, because there was a question mark whether it might be Miles Morales.
Who's the ultimate Spider-Man.
But the quote in the press release...
What is it?
This new level of collaboration is the perfect way to take Peter Parker's story into the future. That's Doug Belgrad from Sony.
Okay, interesting, cool.
Yeah.
I thought it would always be Parker because, let's face it, he's got 50 years of kind of cultural recognition.
Yeah.
They're doing kind of core Marvel continuity.
Sony's looking to go back to Spidey's roots and put the character back in high school.
Cool. So, do you want to go through some of them?
Well, it was two, wasn't it? It's two of
the main ones.
Two that have been... It's that thing, I think, of where they're putting it out into the ether to see the reaction and the feedback.
In the comments.
What people think of these two reasonably similar actors, I think.
Okay. So, Dylan O'Brien. I don't know much about Dylan O'Brien. Have you seen The Maze Runner?
I have.
So, what's he like? He's also in Teen Wolf. Is he...
I haven't seen Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
I've only seen Michael J. Fox Teen Wolf. And he's too old to play Spider-Man now.
You disregard any other Teen Wolf.
Michael J. Fox would have been the greatest Spider-Man ever.
Actually, that's a brilliant point.
But, not now. Yeah, he's good. Like, he's reasonably likeable. There's nothing particularly offensive about him. He didn't make a huge impact on me, but...
I'm a big fan of the other bit of casting rumour.
Okay.
Logan Lerman.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about him. I really like him in everything I've seen.
Yeah.
Noah, not a great movie, but I like him in it. Perks of Being a Wallflower, I think he delivers a really touching performance. Percy Jackson, I've not seen. He's also in Fury.
He's really good in Fury.
He's got a lot of charisma to him.
He's really good in Fury because he's up against some really big heavyweights in that film, and he holds his own. He is the focal point of the film. I think he'd make a good Spider-Man.
He also looks really young. Like I think he'd definitely do 16, 17.
Yeah, because they're both about 24.
Yeah, but I think he looks more boyish of the two.
Yeah.
I just think he's a really good choice.
He's got a fair following. Not that you need that to play Spider-Man, but I wouldn't be unhappy if that was the guy that they announced.
We've got I wrote down a bunch of other suggestions. Shall I just do quick fire at you?
You can do. I was going to say these two actors are American though, and American superheroes
best ones
should
are
be played
British,
by
aren't
Brits. Yep, we all know that.
Do you want a couple of British ones then?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so what about Jack O'Connell?
I love him. I talk about him all the time on the podcast.
Who is Jack O'Connell for people who might not know?
Jack O'Connell came up in Skins, the UK Skins, the original one, which I didn't see. Okay. But in the last year, he's been in Startup and what's that other one?
77? 71?
71. Both brilliant films, both of which he's the lead, and he gives powerhouse performances. He's brilliant in them. He just did the Angelina Jolie film Unbroken. I haven't seen that, but he's one of the few positives to have come out of that one. But he's got charisma, and he's someone that you really root for on screen, and yeah, like him a lot.
I've not heard him do an American accent yet. He's from like Derby, I think.
He is,
Very
He's from
Midlands.
that area. I haven't seen Unbroken. He does an American accent,
Right, okay.
but
So,
I haven't heard that criticised.
A possibility, though.
So yeah, he's about 24 as well, so similar to the other guys.
Okay, I've got 3 more Brits. Okay, Daniel Radcliffe.
I'm not a huge Radders fan.
Right, let's forget about that one. Next one, Freddie Highmore.
But Radcliffe did dress as Spider-Man, didn't he, at Comic-Con?
Yes, he did.
And he went around
yeah,
the secret,
yeah.
so he's obviously a fan.
Star is, he's diversifying his career. Probably doesn't want to get tied down to a big franchise again. I would suspect.
Stick to the serious acting,
His
Daniel.
money. So Freddie Highmore.
Nah.
I think
he's
he'd make
still
a great Peter Parker. I don't think
Yeah.
he'd make a great Spider-Man. He's good in Bates Motel. He does very kind of awkward, sensitive. If you're going to go for that embodiment of
He
Peter
still looks
Parker,
like a school kid, and I think he's about 23.
Yeah. I can't see him doing the cocky, funny Spider-Man, which I can definitely see Logan Lerman doing.
Yeah.
And last one, Taron Egerton.
Yes. Give it to him now. It's funny that the week that this news broke is the same week that Kingsman comes out in the States, and that's launched his career, Taron. It made 41 million in the States. It's already been a hit in the UK. Yeah. He plays a cocky kid.
Yeah, he does.
Who does some amazing action sequences.
Not a wealthy background. He has remarkable abilities in himself. He's smart.
Yeah. And obviously, funnily enough, Kingsman's written by Mark Miller, who wrote Civil War, and he was tweeting.
I never even thought about that.
He was tweeting. No, he's been tweeting. Give the role to him now. Like he's
because he was
Spider-Man.
A few weeks ago, there was a rumor that he'd be Cyclops in Apocalypse. I wonder.
He's really good.
If a chat was already been had.
He's 25, but he looks schoolboy age as well.
Yeah, he's quite built after Secret Kingsman.
What about Dev Patel?
There was an Indian Spider-Man. They run for like 4 issues, I think.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago.
I like Dev Patel.
We're going Peter Parker. I don't think they'll. Like obviously Johnny Storm, they would kind of switch races. Possibility.
Yeah.
I like Dev Patel. I like him in the Newsroom. I think he's good. Awkward. I could see him in the Newsroom. Actually, he's quite Peter Parker-ish when he's like bumbling around the newsroom.
Yes, yeah.
He's like vlogging.
He's good at bumbling. And our colleague Naomi Carl, she was saying someone Marcus Johns. Do you know him?
No.
I'm looking up. I don't really know much about him. She's convinced he's the one, but the only link I can see is he played Will Castle in the 2004 Punisher movie. So he's already part of the Marvel.
He's already in. He's
canon. In the family.
That is canon.
He's 21.
So out of all them, I had one more, not Brit though, Anton Yelchin.
Yeah.
I feel like he's always been rumoured around these big roles. He's still only 25, I think.
25, yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to happen for him. Like, he's in Star Trek. I feel like Star Trek's lost his way. He was in the Terminator movie. That didn't really happen for him.
Yeah.
He's searching for that big role, and I don't think it's going to come.
All right, you can only have one of them. Which one?
Logan Lerman.
Okay, I'm going Taron. Even though I want to say Jack O'Connell, I'm going Taron Egerton.
Okay, so we've got our Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This is a question that I've not seen asked much. A lot have been focusing on casting and what film Spider-Man's going to appear in. Who should direct the standalone one, the 2017 movie?
Yeah, because that needs to be announced soon. If they've got to cast Spider-Man now.
Yeah, and you want that guy to be a part of the whole process. You don't want to just like lump it onto his plate.
Yeah. Who? I don't know. You wrote down Sam Raimi. What's that all about?
That's nostalgia, Chris.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi's made arguably one of the best superhero films of all time, and
No
it
argument from here.
was a Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man 2 is a masterpiece of this genre. It laid down the foundations. It moved past this like beat 'em up kind of formula where you're taking on 2 masked villains. It added tragedy into the mix, amazing action sequences. Spider-Man 2 is brilliant.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi always said in those interviews that he's a huge fan of the characters, and his vision was kind of derailed in number 3. It'd be great for him to have another opportunity. Don't think it's going to happen.
No,
and he probably isn't the right guy now.
I'd be surprised if he went back after the experience he had on Spider-Man 3 as well.
Yeah.
Why go back and spend another year or two doing that? I mean, he would be a great choice, but
Have you got any other?
I want to see him making horror films.
Yeah.
Get back to the horror, Sam. Have I got any others? No. What was it?
So I'll put another one here. Again, more for discussion and debate really than it could happen. But Edgar Wright,
Edgar Wright, that's a really good idea.
Associated for a long time with the Ant-Man movie, left because the script just wasn't in continuity. What if they work up a script and say, actually, we just really want you to work with us. The script is consistent with our continuity, but we want your visual flair and style, which we think is really appropriate to the world of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And he's used to doing like teenage characters with Scott Pilgrim.
Are Marvel going to jump into bed with Edgar? Because obviously they'd have to work together on the movie. Yeah. We don't know how that all ended. It's all a bit...
I'm trying to find a lining to that bit of drama.
Well, the silver lining is Edgar goes and makes original films where he can do whatever he wants.
Whatever the hell he wants, right.
What about the director of the Sinister Six movie? What's going to happen to him?
What about that? So my final choice, and this is the one that I think is the most credible, is Drew Goddard.
Yeah.
I feel so sorry for Drew Goddard. He has really good heritage. He's worked on a lot of big, successful American TV shows, the likes of Lost and so on, Angel as well. He's kind of a bit of a Whedon-esque figure, worked with Whedon on Cabin in the Woods. He was showrunner on Daredevil, left that to go work on the Sinister Six because it was his dream project, which you heard about.
Yeah, spoke to Matt Damon a little while ago, and he was saying, because Drew Goddard wrote and was directing The Martian, his next movie. And that's why Damon jumped on board, was because of that script and working with Drew. And then Drew got the offer for Sinister Six, and it was his dream project. And Matt said, we couldn't stop him. We all said to him, just go, do your thing.
Yeah.
And they got Ridley Scott in, so it wasn't the end of the world. But so that's kind of tragic that this thing is now being pushed back.
And he's like in limbo, and he left another Marvel property. And describing it as his dream project, I can't imagine he's the world's biggest Sinister Six fan. You think it's probably working either with Marvel or specifically in the Spider-Man section of the Marvel universe. And it just feels like if you've got this guy on some kind of contract and the space has opened up, Mark Webber steps aside, this guy loves Spider-Man, loves Marvel, he's smart, he's funny, he can write a great script.
Yeah.
Why would you not give it to him?
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, I would be very surprised if that's not announced.
He's got a gap in his diary.
Yeah, he's like, we doing the Sinister Six? Paul Giamatti still on board? We've still got the suit.
Right.
All right. Should we move on?
Yeah, let's do... Is it feedback time?
It's feedback corner. Obviously,
we got a lot.
Inundated because we did the show last week.
We might have already discussed some of this because... that's the thing. Some of this feedback came in like in drips and drabs.
Yeah, before later information came through. But anyway, we're just going to go through it because everyone's super excited. So Sammy said, if Spider-Man were to have a role in the Civil War movie, I would suggest it'd be the opposite his role in the comic. Rather than the character with a huge history that reveals his identity and regrets it, have him be the kid that's just discovering the potential of his power, the one who nobody knows about, the one that's always been hesitant to get involved, and the one who's eventually inspired to become a hero and who decides to wear the mask and conceal his identity in response to the events of the film. So I think that's a really smart way of doing the origin story again, if you have to do it, but tying it in thematically to the events of Civil War.
Yeah, they have to do it in that way because otherwise, with the events in New York and things...
So where was he?
Yeah. So I think it's a no-brainer that they'll have to reintroduce him in that way. So he would have just found his powers.
Yeah, he has to be, yeah.
This is from Charles Rhodes, who says, Spider-Man has almost run into the ground, and the Marvel-Sony agreement appears to be out of necessity for the character and his success on screen. Personally, I think they can go the Dawn of Justice route and introduce him as an established pre-existing character. I just can't see how they'd do it in the face of the Avengers and the Battle of New York. If there was ever an instance for Spider-Man to assist, it would have been then. For obvious reasons, that couldn't happen, so it's intriguing to ponder on where he was at the time and why he was a no-show. To have him seemingly forced into the MCU seems risky. So there you go, that's on the same point. We don't think he's going to be forced, it's going to be a reintroduction.
Yeah. But it's interesting, it'd be interesting to see, like, the events of the Civil War played out against the background of his discovery of his powers. I think that's kind of an elegant way of doing it because you're not it's not crowbarred in there, it's appropriate to the events of the movie.
Yeah.
So I think Sammy's suggestion is really good. The next one is from Liam. I actually would have preferred Spider-Man at Fox. It's controversial. His comics provide a great foundation for great relationships with various members of both the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and it would certainly shake things up in terms of how he fits into their respective universes. It would also be interesting to look at Spidey as a character who is either terrified of his own powers and doesn't just jump in the suit right away. So almost like playing him as a mutant.
Yeah, and that, a mutant, or even the Fantastic Four conversation that we had, where we thought it might be more of a horror.
It is quite a body horror.
See that take on Spider-Man, where you know, it's pretty horrific what happens to him when you really think about it, and maybe it would have worked in that universe. But
I think this is what comics have like proved over 50 odd years. There's lots of different ways of doing Spider-Man. There's lots of different ways of teasing things out.
Yeah.
And I think we're just going to get this interpretation, and I think it's going to be awesome because he's with a lot of other big characters that he has relationships with.
I've got an email from David Fagan who says, super excited about Spider-Man joining the MCU, obviously, but I've heard a lot of how this could negatively affect other characters' stories in the MCU, specifically Black Panther. It's going to cause his character to really take a hit in terms of popularity in the mainstream audience as he gets lost in the shuffle of new characters being introduced in the coming years. So I guess that's a wait and see, really. We don't really know how this is going to go.
I think more than anything, it depends. Obviously, he might have a less prominent role in Civil War, but ultimately, he's still going to get his own movie. He's still going to be a part of it. And, look at Groot. People love Groot, people love Rocket, Drax, and they're a bit, they're part players.
Equally, I look at Hawkeye, though, and feel like that character, even...
I think that is testament to the fact that he was mishandled in that movie. So it'd be interesting to see reaction to Hawkeye after Age of Ultron, whether that's... Because I think Whedon said that he was conscious of that he was kind of misusing the first film as this kind of hypnotised zombie man.
Yeah.
So Andrew Vogt, he says, I personally think there'll be a quick origin recap in Cap Civil War, maybe told through the Daily Bugle headlines, but he'll mainly be in the background as a mysterious crime fighter. We only see him in costume until a demasking and my name is Peter Parker, I've been Spider-Man since I was 15 years old moment towards the end of the film. There, my spider sense tells me that he'll be a character who's killed off at the end of the Infinity War, ready for Miles Morales to take over in Phase 4.
Carl Barrett says he wants this Spider-Man to be Miles Morales. We've obviously addressed the fact that he's probably not going to be him, but that would be interesting. Give him a, what would that be? 4 or 5 picture arc and then gone?
Dramatic. Dante has written in. Dante says, where will they pick up? Actual teenage Peter Parker, college professor Peter Parker, Miles Morales, origin story again, use some of Sam Raimi's continuity. Obviously, we addressed a lot of that, but it's interesting all these questions were circulating at the time, but we're going to get young Peter Parker at school, probably origin story.
And Daniel Price thinks he should be played by Daniel Radcliffe because he can be an awkward teenager, he can be a hero, and he can act.
Andrew Brock, brilliant Spider-Man name there, Andrew Brock. As for new casting, I think Thomas Brody, Game of Thrones, The Maze Runner, Love Actually would be a really interesting pick. I think Andrew might have tweeted me with this suggestion. Yeah, he kind of fits the kind of mould. I might be in the mix.
Another one I like is Cody Smith McPhee, but he's just been cast in...
As Nightcrawler,
in Nightcrawler, as we go to press it. And Tim Houghton-Howell says, when do you think Easter eggs are going to start popping up? Regarding Spider-Man, I guess. Could there be a Spider-Man mention in Age of Ultron this summer?
It's too late.
Too late.
I think that boat has sailed. Probably lots of Black Panther Easter eggs.
Is there time though? What's Ant-Man?
Ant-Man, I think you possibly could do an Easter egg in that.
And then is the next one Captain America Civil War?
Yes.
Okay, so there's not a lot of time for Easter eggs. Maybe Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Just CGI webbing. That's his debut. Watch Agent Carter. There's a web.
We don't know, Tim, but we'll see.
Brilliant.
And is that it? Is there more Spider-Man stuff to talk about?
No, that's it. That's it for feedback.
I highlighted a lot here.
If you want to send in any more feedback, you can do so at any time at superheroShow@ign.com. You can contact us on Twitter. I'm at Krupa. You're at Tilly Tweets.
Yeah, I want to know where you were and what you were doing when you heard the news.
Judgment Day.
This is big for us. This is the Beatles reforming, isn't it?
Which never happened.
No, that's why it's even better than the Beatles reforming. Yeah, that's it. All right, well, that's that for us.
Pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for watching as ever, and keep it tuned to IGN for all your superhero and Spider-Man needs.